Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Bree. I know y'all, for this video, I'm not going to be on camera. Just want to let you guys know that. But don't worry, in the next episode, I will be on camera, but we're just going to do things a little bit different. I am going to show you some visuals of this week's recap and, the videos, clips that I kind of put up. I am going to show you that so you kind of get the feel and the gist of this week's episode. But anyway, that's what we're doing. But thank you so much for returning. And of course, I'm here to discuss Ready to Love, Make a Move, episode 8, titled All Work, No Play. All right, y'all, so let's get into it. So we start this episode off with Ashley. She's still in shock from what Don told her. So remember in last week's episode, he conveniently forgot to tell her he was married. Well, yeah, so we're back at that scene, back at his house, and Ashley is like, what? What do you mean you're married? You didn't tell me that. So he replies saying that, he doesn't talk about it. And, he reveals that he got married at 21 years old and it only lasted for a year. So he lets Ashley know that, no one knew that he got married. And I believe he's talking about like his family and possibly his spouse's family at the time. So basically his marriage was a whole secret. So he says that his marriage and divorce, it was pretty simple, went by really fast. Well, I'm sorry, not really fast, but it was cheap, I guess, to do the divorce. He said it cost like $200 because they had no property together, they had no kids together, nothing. So the divorce was kind of like a smooth transition. He said that he will not get married without having enough information from his partner in the future. And that's that on that. So we see in Ashley's confessional, she says, because Don got married young, he's a hopeless romantic like her, and that they both love. And to be honest, she thinks it's kind of beautiful. And I'm like, wait a minute, Ashley, like what? Y'all, I have been struggling with Miss Ashley. Y'all already know. What is it? From episode 1? I'm trying to figure out Ashley. I don't like the fact that he kept this from you. This is a very important fact about him. He should have, told you. And then he come telling you when you asked him a question about was there something that he never told her or whatever the question on the card was. But you over here in La La Land talking about he's a hopeless romantic and you think it's kind of beautiful. No, the problem is he should have told you. Anyway, so they're talking and she lets him know that, he should have told her from the beginning. And then she asks him, what's his honest opinion about her? So he says that he thinks she's amazing, intelligent, driven, and healed. And then she starts telling him, some of the things that she likes about him. So, child, they're just enjoying their meal. I don't know. I guess it didn't bother her too much. I guess in that moment, probably when she goes home and she settles down and she really thinks about it, it'll probably make her feel some type of way. Like, oh, he really didn't tell me that he was married. So I think it'll hit her when she's alone by herself. But I think in the moment, since she's in Don's presence, it kind of just went in one ear out the other with her. So y'all know how Ashley is. So anyway, we jump on over to a new scene and the ladies are back at the house and we see them getting dressed and putting on their makeup. And so Charisse gets a call all of a sudden and the call is from Tamika. And, Tamika's talking to Charisse and she brings up the fact that Charisse no longer has, any keepers because she let Mizell go and she let Danzy go. But Tamika kind of has a surprise for her. She lets Charisse know that she's going to send her on a new blind date that day. And she actually has 2 options. So basically, Miss Charisse is going on 2 blind dates. So she can try to, catch up with the other ladies who kind of already have keepers. And, we'll see what she's going to do there. So in a new scene, we see Zadia walking up to a house and we learn she's visiting Cameron at his house. So he opens the door, they hug, and when she walks in, she says that he definitely has a bachelor's pad and he needs a woman's touch. And you know how, some bachelor pads are, they may have like clothes lying around and it's maybe not that tidy. And although his house, wasn't like bad or anything, I think it did show he had some like dishes in the sink. And I'm like, Cameron, you knew you were going to have company today, especially a whole production. I don't know why you didn't at least do the dishes, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. So anyway, they sit down on his couch after he kind of shows her around. And so he lets her know that he's outgrown this house and that he's ready to transition into a bigger place, if he were to have someone in his life. So he says that, he's very invested and a lot of his money goes into the stock market and into crypto. So he's very much big into like investing his money and making it grow, things like that. So as we go on, Zadia asks him, well, what's next for you? And he says, right now he's enjoying the process of, the whole thing with Ready to Love, and he enjoys them hanging out. He says, but he owns a house in New Orleans and his goal is to own more properties. So he also tells her, DC, it's a cool place to visit, but not really to move. And Zadia says, you can't say that because you haven't even visited DC. And so he says, well, at this point in my life, I don't really see that. So basically, Cameron is like, I ain't moving. It is what it is. And yeah, that's what it is. So Zadia says in her confessional that, she's open and willing to try, but he keeps shutting her down at every turn. So as they're still talking, Cameron says that it is possible for him to have a long distance relationship, but it's not ideal. And she agrees with him and she says, for the right person, I'll make it work. Then she asks him, well, Cameron, am I the right person? So then he's like, we're trying to see. And he says it takes time to figure out. So she says I think it was in her confessional, she says that she questions Cameron if he could be the right person to make a move. And she's thinking, at this point, something has to give. And I'm like, Zadia, it is clear as day. Honestly, y'all, I don't know if I said it 2 episodes ago, but it was definitely when Camille came. Cameron is kind of checked out. I really don't think Cameron is feeling Zadia like that anymore. And I saw it when he had lunch with her and Camille talking about his work schedule. And so he was kind of leading up to this going to be a problem, and he was kind of making it an excuse. And so I'm like, Zadia, if a man is making you question his loyalty to you or just wanting to be with you, he's not fully vested and he's not interested, period.
I said what I said. Okay.
Because no man is going to make you question if he wants to be with you, because just naturally he's gonna let you know that by his actions. And clearly Cameron is not fully vested in this. If he keeps bringing up that he works all the time, he was, late to your party, but I know he couldn't get off work, so that don't really count, I guess. But he ain't vested. He doesn't. He's not. It is what it is. And also, too, Cameron wants to do what he wants to do by, going out on little dates with you and having fun. But he's not trying to have no girlfriend, and certainly he's not ready to settle down. He's just not looking for a serious relationships. And that's why he's talking in circles without really telling you what the deal is. But that's neither here nor there. And I digress. So next, in a new scene, we see Charisse walking up to a cafe for one of her blind dates. And we learn she's meeting a guy named Nick, who, I don't know if you guys remember, it might have been the first episode. He was one of the guys that were at the mixer where the ladies had to choose which guy they wanted to go on a date with. So yeah, he's from way back. So they meet, they're sitting down at a table. So they start talking and Nick asks her, do you work out? And she replies, yes, I do Pilates. So then he starts talking about what he does and how he works out. So it seems that working out is really important to him. So anyway, the date is just going on and they're talking, and child, they are flirting with each other. You can tell they're very physically attracted to one another. And Sharice child was just giggling, you know, like a little old school girl being with this guy. And yeah, she was liking what she was seeing. And she even says in her confessional that they both have chemistry and that he is eye candy. So I'm like, okay, Sharice, let's see where this goes. So in a new scene, we learned that Vernisha is heading over to Tabari's house. And we see that he's cooking for her and he's made dinner for the both of them. So once she arrives, you know, they greet each other. They go into his kitchen and he surprises her with roses. So when they talked before, she let him know that roses was her favorite flower. And so he thought to surprise her with roses. So that was really sweet. So they sit down and they're having dinner, and he lets her know that family is very important to him with the person he decides he's going to spend the rest of his life with. And, you know, his transition of this new person being in his life, it has to be seamless. So Vernisha says, you know, I know you've told me before that you spend a lot of time between Mississippi and New Orleans. You know, if something was to pop off between me and you, what does that look like for us, considering I live in Texas? So he says, you know, as things progress, you know, things can change. And so in her confessional, she says, you know, she doesn't know how things will pan out for them due to the distance. So she's kind of on the fence with Tabari because not only does he live in New Orleans, because I think she says she's even willing to move to New Orleans, but the problem is he keeps going back and forth between Mississippi and New Orleans. And the reason is because he has a child in Mississippi. So, yeah, I don't know what she's going to do about that. So that's her cause of concern. So next, we're at a new scene. We're back at the house, and we see that the ladies are in the kitchen talking. So as they're all in the kitchen, all of a sudden we hear the doorbell ring, and Cameron is at the door. So I'm like, okay, what is he doing there? And like automatically, y'all, I just kind of knew what was about to happen. But yeah, let me continue. So Zadia opens the door and, you know, they greet each other. And so he's like, you know, I was just in the area and, you know, I wanted to talk to you. So she's like, okay, cool. So they go in the living room and they sit down. And so he starts telling her, he's like, you know, I have a lot going on and meeting you this year was not in the plan. And I started this new year with goals of just working. And I just wanted you to know that I'm under a lot of pressure from my businesses and my job. And my time is limited right now. So he says that this process is moving really fast. And, you know, maybe there's someone for Zadia that might be willing and ready to jump in and be there for her at all times. And he just wanted to share that with her. So that she can move forward with the full knowledge of what's going on with him. So Zadia is just looking at him and she's like,
And this is how I felt.
Really?
She's explaining it to you.
Yeah, I'm just saying really.
okay, like, what are you trying to say? So Zadia says to him, she's like, I'm not 100% sure of like what's happening in this moment. And, you know, I'm just trying to understand. So I'm like, Zadia, there's nothing to understand. He's trying to tell you without really telling you. I don't want to continue with you anymore. I'm moving on. I'm using work as an excuse, but deep down inside, I just don't see a future with us. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to let you down, but I'm trying to let you down as nice as I could. And it's just no interest for me. So Zadia, that is what he's trying to tell you. I don't know why you're confused about that. And he's just using work as an excuse because, like I said, y'all, in my last recap, a man has autonomy over his time. And if he really wants you, he would make the time for you. There's only 24 hours in a day, and he isn't busy those whole 24 hours. And so him showing up at the house, I kind of just knew that he was going to tell her something like that. So anyway, after she says, I'm not 100% sure about what's going on, whatever. He says, I enjoy spending time with you, but moving forward, this time will be limited. And if you want to make a decision to part ways, you can. But if you want to hang on to me and nurture what we've been building, you can do that. So as he's saying that part, she interjects and says, well, do you want me to part ways with you? And I'm like, Zadia, yes. Sorry. Sorry, y'all, for yelling. I'm like, Zadia, yes, he wants to part ways with you. What are you talking about? Why do you think he said that? He's just trying to put it on you, because that's how guys do sometimes. He'll try to flip it on you to get you to kind of end things with him so that he doesn't feel guilty about it. But Zadia, yes, he wants to part ways with you because he's not interested anymore. He's not vested. You don't want him stringing you along. He's just beating around the bush with it. So anyway, when she says that and she asks him, Cameron replies saying, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. And, I want to continue showing you what, New Orleans have to offer and, what I have to offer and maintain a level of open communication. And so I'm like, okay, Cameron, what was the point of you saying all this stuff about, my time is limited, you may need to have somebody jump in and who's willing and ready to take on this process with you because I can't give you my time. So then when Zadia asks you, do you want to part ways? Now all of a sudden you sitting up here talking about, oh, well, no, I still want us to communicate. And I'm like, no, you can't have it both ways. You are not going to be stringing somebody along. Let me keep Zadia in my back pocket or whatever, but I'm going to do my thing, when I want to. And instead of just being upfront and honest, be like, hey, Zadia, I think you're an amazing woman. I've had such a great time getting to know you and hanging out. I just think moving forward, this is not for me. And I think we can, simply be friends. And then just cut it off. And I mean, I get it. Nobody wants to turn somebody down. I get that. But you just have to be honest. And I don't like how you came over here saying one thing, basically trying to cut it off. But as soon as she flips it on you and just say, well, do you want to just part ways? I guess you were feeling bad about it and didn't want to hurt her feelings and was just like, no. So anyway, yeah. So after he says all of that, she lets him know that she understands and they hug it out and he leaves the house. And so I'm kind of figuring out like, okay, where does this leave? So I guess he's still in the running, or y'all gonna have to help me with this. Cause Zadia, now I'm looking at you like, girl.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
So in a new scene, we see the ladies and Tamika at the house, and Tamika asks Zadia about Cameron. So Zadia tells her what happened about, the day that Cameron came over talking all that stuff about whatever he was talking about. And so she lets Tamika know, I understand where he's coming from. And, I'm just going to roll with the punches pretty much. Charisse tells Tamika about her blind date that she had with Zadia the other day. Remember, it was like last week's episode. They both went out on dates with, I believe, one of the guys' names was Brandon, and then Charisse's date was Will. So Charisse is telling Tamika about that. And then also Charisse tells her about the date she went on with Nick. And she lets her know that finally she found somebody who she's attracted to. So, Charisse lets her know the 411 with that, and, it's all good. So Tamika tells all the ladies, their journey is getting deeper now, and they're getting closer to making a decision if they want to keep their keepers or make a move. So she lets Ashley, Renisha, and Zadia know that their keepers are coming to the house tonight, for their mixers, basically either letting them know they're going to keep them around or make a move. But she says for Charisse, she's invited Nick and Will to the mixer. And of course, she'll have to make a decision there. So basically, the ladies get ready and it's the night of the mixer. And the first person to arrive is Don. And, of course, him and Ashley greet. And somehow the ladies found out that he writes poetry. So they're just like, yeah, can you recite a poem? Like, we want to hear what you got. So he recites a poem and, it was kind of corny, but it was cute. It was cute. So anyway, finally, the rest of the men arrive. And so Sharice's date, Will, he comes through and he gives her a gift. And he does it right in front of Sharice's other date, Nick. And Nick was just looking like, oh, wow. So I'm like, Nick, you got some competition because he came with a gift and you came bearing none. So he definitely was trying to impress Sharice. So you're going to have to step your game up, sir. So that was funny. So in the scene, we do learn that Nick, he's 40 years old and he's a barber / fitness trainer. So then we jump on over to see Vernisha and Tabari sitting down talking, and she lets him know that, she appreciates him, but their distance scares her. So as she's talking, of course, they jump to a new scene, and we see Ashley and Dawn talking, and she lets him know that she's all over the place, but that Dawn really stands out in a crowd and she adores him. But he didn't let her know originally that he was married, and it's kind of still piercing in her brain. So it's like I said, I believe that's what happened. I believed after her date with Don, she went home, she thought about it and was like, he didn't tell me he was married. I don't like that. So she's just letting him know that's still kind of on my mind. So Don says, he's serious about her and he's not playing with her. Then the scene switches to Vernisha, and her and Tabari still talking. And finally, she lets him know that she's decided to keep him around. So that was interesting to me. I didn't know if Vernisha was going to keep him because I know the distance was kind of like getting to her. So I kind of was on the fence. I wasn't too sure, but hey, she made her decision. So next, we jump back on over to Ashley and Don, and she finally tells him that she's going to keep him around, and they have their first kiss. So that was cute. So I kind of figured she was going to keep him around anyway. So next, we see Sharice talking to Will, her date, and she says, I know that this is a fast process, and I just love your personality, and you're so patient and kind. And then he lets her know that he likes more mature women. Then the scene jumps over to Sharice speaking to her other date, Nick. And of course, they're flirting with each other. They're just super attracted to each other. So in Sharice's confessional, she says that she's torn between her choices and needs, some of the ladies' advice. So she asked, Zadi and Vernisha to come on over to her, and they go and talk privately because, again, she's trying to get some advice on who she should pick. So she's telling, the ladies about both of the guys. And so Zadia responds and says, you said that conversation is important to you. And between the two, who has a better conversation? So before Sharice could even say anything, Vernisha says, Will. And then Sharice replies, yeah, he does. So Zadia says, communication can lead to deeper chemistry and intimacy. And then Sharice says, well, deep conversation can sometimes be a turnoff too. But then Zadia says, well, sometimes we are attracted to the mental stimulation. So, of course, they all agree with that. And then Zadia, she's like, well, both of them are great guys. And Vernisha even agrees with that as well. So next we see Sharice, back in the kitchen with Will. And she lets him know that she doesn't know if they would be the best fit for one another. And as she's talking, of course, jumps over to a new scene. And Sharice is talking to Nick. And she lets him know that she needs him to be more verbal and keep communicating with her. So back on over to the scene with Sharice and Will still talking. She lets Will know that she's going to move in a new direction. And so I kind of knew she was going to do that because I don't think she was attracted to him. And Nick got her eyes wide open. So I kind of knew she was going to let him go. So, he says that he appreciates her being honest and upfront with him, and they hug. And he had nothing but great things to say about her when he had some camera time after he left the house. So it was really nice. I thought that was really nice of him, the things that he said. So then we jump back on over to Cherise talking to Nick, and she lets him know that she wants to keep him around. So she lets us know as the audience that she picked Nick over Will because Will's life is settled here in New Orleans, and she feels like Nick would be more open to moving to Miami or living in both places. So that was her reasoning on deciding on what guy she was going to pick. So anyway, next we see Zadia sitting down talking to Cameron. And she's letting him know that she likes their connection. But the other day, he threw her a curveball because of what he was saying. And she's like kind of confused because she doesn't know if he's here or he's not here. You know how Cameron all over the place. And so she's confused. So anyway, they're talking. And of course, she lets him know that she's decided to keep him around. And I'm not going to lie, y'all. I think I was watching Cameron's body language. When she told him she was going to keep him, he showed, excitement and they hugged, but it wasn't like how it was in the beginning when, she would let him know all those other times. And I honestly, this is just me. I kind of feel in a way Cameron wanted her to be like, I'm going to move in a different direction. But because she's not doing it, it's kind of keeping him stuck. And instead of him being more mature and just letting her know like, hey, I don't want to continue this process because he thinks it's going to hurt her feelings. And my thing is this, either way, her feelings are going to be hurt. Why stay in something you know that you don't want? And then if you say, like, I'm out of here, it's going to hurt her still. So I think she would respect you more if you just come out and say it. And anyway, Zadia, deep down inside your intuition, which is the Holy Spirit telling you he's not the person for you. And even Camille said that. So Camille was right. And my thing is, why would you keep a man around who is unsure about you and is telling you to move on to someone else? So anyway, y'all, they hug it out, and I think they gave each other a kiss too. So Cameron has a little confessional, and he says that, Zadia deserves for him to try his best and stick through it with her in this process and to see where things go. And I'm like, Cameron, why are you wasting this girl's time when you know that you don't see any future with her? And to be honest, like I was saying, he really wants Zadia to make the decision to move on. So, y'all, I don't know what to say about this because it just seems like it's a chore for him to keep being in this process, rather wanting to stay in the process. And yeah, I don't know what to say about this. Anyway, so all the guys leave the house and Tamika, stays back and she lets the ladies know that she's going to give them a heads up about their next blind dates. So she says that she's going to bring back someone they may have overlooked in their past, and she wants them to keep an open mind and see if there's something they miss about the person from their past. So I'm just like, Lord, it's about to be some drama because Tamika, who are you bringing back? Like, they're in the past for a reason, so I'm not really sure about that. So anyway, the ladies are looking around. They're like, oh, Lord, like, what is going on? And Venetia, I think she said, it better not be nobody from my past, that I don't like or whatever. So don't quote me on that. I think she says something along those lines. So anyway, we jump to a new scene, and it's the next day, and we see Venetia walking into a restaurant to meet her blind date, the person in the past. And guess who she meets up with? Mizell. And I'm like, absolutely not. And I'm like, Tamika, why would you bring Mizell back after like all the people? If anything, maybe you should have brought Jabari back, not no Mizell, especially after he tried to play out Charisse and try to be slick with Vernisha. Like, no, why is he here? So I don't really like that. So you can tell that Vernisha was really annoyed. I think she even rolled her eyes when they hugged and was greeting each other. So you could just tell she was just not here for it. So in her confessional, she says that Mizell is a liar and nobody wants to be around or be with one. So he's talking to her, they're sitting down, and, you know, he's talking and thanking her that she gave him time to talk to him because she could have walked away. So she says to him, you know, instead of you being honest with Charisse, you downplayed whatever you were trying to do. So I felt some type of way about it. So he says, as far as him lying to Charisse, you know, outside of him and Charisse's date, they never really communicated. So he didn't feel like he owed Charisse an explanation to even say anything to her. So Vernisha says, you know, she would have liked for him to be more forward and honest in his intentions. And so he agreed with her, and he says, you know, it wasn't his intent to be deceptive, but they had a moment. And so at this point, he is just going on, and he's just talking, you know, trying to run game and butter up Vernisha. And then all of a sudden, Vernisha asked him, you know, are you still interested in Charisse? And scene. So yeah, that episode ends with basically a cliffhanger of Vernisha asking him, well, are you still interested in Charisse? And honestly, I kind of already know what the answer is going to be next week. He's going to say no, like he's trying to get with you. Why is he going to tell you, oh yeah, I'm still interested in Charisse? He's not going to do that, Vernisha. So I don't even know why you asked him that. And my thing is, he ain't nothing, like I said, but a player. Why are you wasting your time even trying to backpedal with this? He, like you said, he was dishonest. He tried to downplay what y'all were going to do. And no, he cannot be trusted. So no. So yeah, y'all, that's where the episode ends. And yeah, I would say I would give this episode, oh Lord, do I want to give it an 8? Wow. Maybe I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. It was pretty good. You know, Cameron, no, he needs to stop. And I already said what I need to say about that. We'll see what happens with Vernisha. I really hope Vernisha does not take Mizell back and give him another chance. I just don't think he's an honest person. I think he's kind of a player from what I'm seeing. Y'all, I just want y'all to know, because, you know, everybody be saying, oh, it's edited and all this stuff. No, it's from what I'm seeing, what they're showing me as a viewer. So I'm going off of that. So I just don't think she needs to waste her time with him. But, you know, just never know. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, y'all. So thank you so much for tuning in for another Ready to Love, Make a Move recap. Thank you guys so much. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can be informed whenever I upload a new video. Also, too, please comment below. You know, let's engage. Let's talk about, you know, this week's episode and, you know, any of the characters on the show. What do you guys think about this? Tell me. I definitely want to know your thoughts about Cameron. Do you think, you know, he doesn't like Zadia anymore and he's trying to get out, or you really think he's just super busy, like he's saying, child, who knows? And what do you think, you know, Mizell's answer is going to be? So I don't know, y'all. We'll chop it up down below. But as always, before you go, I love to say a prayer over you. So here it goes. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and show you and give you his peace. And may the Lord protect you as well. This is my prayer over your life. In Jesus' name, amen. Take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next recap. And yeah, bye.